Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be talking about Bleach. I love talking about Bleach, and there's not like any brand new information, but we recently got one of those questions from the club outside answered, and it kind of opened up some doors. So it's about the anime that's coming up later this year, and apparently Kubo has stated that he plans to have certain elements that were not in the manga incorporated into the anime. We know from interviews and whatnot, even prior to the Thousand Year Blood War arc, that he had a lot planned and that he had like a long series of events to go on. And then it ended short. So we didn't get a whole lot of what I think he wanted to do. Well, we got a lot of what he wanted to do, but what I'm saying is that there's still a lot that he probably wanted to have in there. Stuff involving Rukia, certain fights that either he did have, but they needed to be fleshed out, or fights that we didn't see at all. So that's super exciting. So what I thought I would do in this video is maybe talk just a little bit about what can we possibly expect to see added to the anime. I'm just gonna get out of the way right now. I think that the light novels get adapted, I think, in some capacity. I don't know how they'll do it, whether it be like an OVA or like, because they don't really fit into the main story, so they'd either need to break up the ending or they would be ending with the light novels, because a lot of them take place after the main story. It's weird, but I would not be surprised if the light novels get adapted in some capacity, which is cool because I have not read most of them. I've read some of, where is it? I don't have it. I've read a decent chunk of it's King of Can't Fear Your Own World. I played the campaign of Can't Fear Your Own World in the Bleach Brave Soul game. So I like that a lot, and I'd like to see that animated. I think that's super cool. But yeah, so light novels in some capacity will be animated, I think. What I really want to see, though, is there's so many specific little aspects of the Thousand Year Blood War arc that I think did not get their justice due. And I think that we could really stand to flesh out the story in a big way if we had even just a couple extra scenes here and there added. Now, I made a video all the way back in January of 2021 discussing what I would think like an anime adaptation would do to fix the ending of Bleach. And honestly, I don't remember exactly what I said in that. That's not what this video is going to be about, though. I'm not talking about the very end and how you would fix the fight with Yuha, although I think maybe that's something that they could do. But I think that I probably made some valid points about certain fights. In either case, I wanted to focus on very specific events. Not that I have a list or anything, but off the top of my head, I want to see the fight between Shinji and Basby. I think that would be super cool to see. It would give Shinji an extra anything to do in the Thousand Year Blood War arc, because aside from just being kind of like a moral leader and like giving moral support here and there, he really didn't do a whole lot. So I would love to see him actually. It's clear that he did do stuff. He got into a fight with Basby, and they mentioned how he basically saved like what I think it's Omaida and his sister, and then like Momo. Like he basically saved them from getting killed by Basby. So that's something that absolutely needs to be shown. I think that would be super cool. Another fight that I think would be super cool to see is I hope to God that they actually show Chad and Ganju fighting those giant like monolith looking like those big like statue things in the Varvelt. Like that is something like Chad does not get his due justice at all, really, especially as the story continues. He always, like, it's a running joke that he's like, Chad is always just like, he's in a relationship with the floor because he's always on the floor. So I think it would be really cool to see him actually full on win and not have a basically just like get thrown back into his face in the end. So it would be really cool to see him and Ganju kind of tag team those giant monsters as Ichigo's going to fight Yuha. Another thing that absolutely needs to be added is anything, literally anything additional with Ishin and Ryuken. They literally do nothing. Well, okay, at least Ryuken gives the arrowhead to Uryu. He Ishin literally does nothing in in this season, other than the fact that like, okay, that's not fair because he does have a conversation with Ichigo during the Nothing But the Rain, whatever the flashback arc with him and Masaki and everything. So okay, I can't say he does nothing, but it's like he shows up in the Soul Society to do nothing. He literally is just there. And Kubo, like, it feels like Kubo maybe wanted him to do something, and incorporated him into the story as like, oh, he's there, but like didn't really have time. So give him something. I have this long running thing in my head where it's like, what if? Here's an idea. What if during the fight with Gerard Valkyrie, Rangiku ended up waking up from her like coma too, and ended up going to where Toshiro is, and it's like, okay, well, she's added to the fight in some capacity, but obviously Toshiro, Byakuya, and Kenpachi are having their issues with Gerard. And I'm not saying that anything's going to be fixed by this, but what if Ishin showed up and it's like they're about to get stopped by Gerard, and suddenly it's a Getsuga Tensho right into his face, and Toshiro and Rangiku are like, wait a second, isn't Ichigo supposed to be going to fight Yuha? And then it's a massive reveal that Ishin is on the scene, and that would be his actual first. I think maybe that would be his first real appearance. And then it's like, yo, you have a nice reunion between him and his former lieutenant and former third seat. I think that would be awesome. And then he can make an offhanded comment about Rangiku's boobs, because of course he would. And then because Toshiro would be in his adult form from his Bankai, he could say like, oh, I can't really lift you up anymore because you're too tall. And it's like, it would be awesome. I would love that. As far as Ryukin is concerned, I think maybe he could have shown up during the Uryu fight with what's his face? Jugrim. I think that there's something there that maybe, I don't know, it's like they would need to change the fight enough that it would be like make sense for Ryukin to show up for him. And even then that would like kind of ruin, like, I feel like Ryukin would need his own fight, I guess is the thing, where it's like, okay, maybe Ishin and Ryukin show up in that last moment after they've had their own fights, after they've had their own instances, and instead of it just being like, oh, they're squeaky clean because they've had no combat at all, maybe they're a little bit more rough and tumble. They're either way, you need to give him something to do, because it's him just showing up with the arrowhead feels like nothing. Speaking of characters that do not get enough screen time, the Vizards need a win. They need something. I'm glad that like part of the reason why like Hiyori and whatever were not around for the beginning of the arc is because they were like patching up like the little things in the world of the living. But once they arrive on the scene, they need to be given something, because it's like the Vizards have always been such a weird zone where it's like, okay, they exist and they're super cool characters, but then they're just kind of there and they show up really late all the time, and then they don't really accomplish anything significant. So I really, really don't like them getting bodied by Gerard. Give them either an entire other battle or flesh out that little like instance where they go at it and he already's using like the Saros and whatever. Just don't have them visored up and like their masks and then get like swatted away, because it's so bad and dumb. And I get the point that Kubo was trying to make with Gerard, where it's like, oh, he's super strong, but he can make that point later on when he's fighting Byakuya, Toshiro, and Kenpachi, and maybe Ishin. So he could make that point later on. Give the Vizards something, please, for the love of God. And that goes kind of for the other Vizards that like are the captains now. So Shinji to some degree, I think Shinji could use this during his fight with Basby. But was it Rose and Kensei? Okay, I liked Kensei's stuff. I like that he had like, oh, he has like a morphing Bankai, and it's kind of cool. I like that. Why didn't either of them use their masks against Mask the Masculine? You could have made a joke about like, oh, Mask the Masculine wears a mask, so do we, and you could still have it be Mask the Masculine bodying them and taking them out, but have it show that they're like putting their everything into it, because it doesn't feel like it, especially with Love, where it's just like he basically talks himself into a defeat. and that sucks. It really, really sucks. Rose is not my favorite character, but I think that his abilities are cool. So it would have been really cool to see him actually put up a real fight rather than just talking himself down from a win. Speaking of characters that don't really do a whole lot, give the Fullbringers more to do than just bringing Ichigo back, because that is lame as hell too. That is like Kubo just needed an excuse to have Ichigo lose and then be able to come back immediately with no repercussions whatsoever. So give them something to do too. Not everything needs to be a fight either. It could just literally be they're going off to do something important, whether it to be like maybe Tsukishima is cutting a bunch of stuff to kind of like keep stuff from falling apart because now the Soul King is dead, and whatever. It doesn't matter. Give them something to do. Maybe even give Ichigo and Ginjo a moment where they actually fight together. That would be awesome. It's former friends and enemies kind of getting back together is kind of a cool idea. Honestly, I really like the Grimmjow stuff. I wish that he had more to do too, because it's like he kind of has some stuff, and I liked his like half transformations when he's like kind of going into his Pantera stuff with his claws. But ultimately, I think that some of these characters need just a little bit more extra, a few more scenes here and there to make them look like they're actually doing something worthwhile. Now, as far as characters that it seemed like Kubo wanted to do something with, but he never actually ended up doing anything with, in the end, Rukia and Rangiku. So for Rangiku, he had talked about how he wanted to dive into her past, at some point in the main manga in those interviews prior to the final arc coming out. Obviously that never happened. So you could add some stuff in. Now, granted, we did get some stuff about Rangiku in the light novels about how she had like the nail of Reo in her and all that. But that's stuff that like I think could be fleshed out both in the 1,000-Year Blood War arc and in the light novels. I think that could be cool to see, have her be a bit more important. Also, Rukia, it seemed like he really wanted her to be more involved in the final battle, or at least in some capacity in the story, but like nothing came of it. At the end of Urahara's fight with Askin, he basically says, okay, I guess I'm going to leave it to you, Ichigo and Rukia. And then Rukia kind of shows up, and then that's kind of it. And then Ichigo goes off to the Soul Society and with Renji, and not even Rukia, and then she's just it. She's not there until the time skip, and then she's suddenly in a captain, and it's like, okay, give her something more to do. I think she deserves it. Now, not all of this stuff needs to be in fights. Some of it can just be supportive roles. Some of it can just be scenes where they're talking or giving some kind of speeches or whatever. But that kind of leads me to my next thing. Not everything needs to be a fight. Please, for the love of God, let us see the flashback to 1,000 years when the original 13 Core Guard squads were fighting the Quincy's. We got a little bit of like old Unohana and like how she used to be back then, but that's like not enough. I want to see who the other silhouettes are. I want to see Old Man Yamamoto in his prime. I want to see all of that and a bag of chips. Let me see this intense and strong, the strongest 13 Core Guard squad to ever live, which I don't know about that. But let's see what the fuss is about, because they talk a lot about them, but then they never show. So they do a lot of talking and not showing. I want to see the at least give us like an episode or two where it's like, here is the flashback of how Yuha originally was defeated. One final thing that I think I want to see is maybe honestly some downtime in the very beginning of this season. I know that's probably not going to be a popular thing to say, but it kind of felt going from the Fullbring arc into the 1,000-Year Blood War arc, it kind of felt like everything just kept going, right? Yeah, he beat the bad guy in the last arc, and now he's moving forward to the next one. And it's clear that like time has passed, but I want to see some of that. Show us them like just every average day killing a hollow and going to school. Show us some stuff. Bring us back to the original season where it's just like, oh, here is the original arc kind of stuff where they're just living their lives. We even get a little bit of that in the beginning of the Arrancar arc, where it's just like he's going to school. He's having instances in which he's kind of dealing with some stuff, but then He's just living his life. I want to see that. Now, I'm sure that there's plenty of other things that I could keep going on and on and on about, but I think those are all the big things that I could think of off the top of my head that I would like to see more of. It's the kind of thing where the 1,000-Year Blood War arc, there's not a lot of like, oh, I wish that didn't happen. It's more of a lot of, I want to see more. I want to see this fleshed out. There's a lot of like the concept of filler, I think, is normally not great, but in this case, I think it desperately needs something extra. I know that like for Attack on Titan, Isayama actually kind of tweaked some stuff for the 3rd season because it's a lot of talking. It's a lot of like politics and stuff like that. And I guess he wasn't terribly happy with how he did everything in the manga. So he kind of tweaked some stuff to make it flow a little bit better in the anime. Make that happen, Kubo. I think that the 1,000-Year Blood War arc anime could be the pinnacle of Bleach. And I'm very, very excited to see what happens. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Are there any scenes or characters you want to see more of? What would you like to see tweaked and changed just a hair? Not everything's going to be changed entirely. Let's just be clear about that. The story will still end with Ichigo running through Yuha and like having a sword break and having that whole like headache of a confusion about what's going on with that. It's all going to end more or less the same. It's just that things are going to be stretched out and fleshed out even just a little. So let me know what you guys want to see down below in the comment section. And if you enjoyed anything I had to say, make sure to leave a like. I would greatly appreciate it. It really would help. It helps let YouTube know that people want to watch these kind of videos and pushes out my content so more people can see it. I will see you guys hopefully very, very soon in another video. So long.